Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1361A, and today's date is August 22nd, 2017, and the title of the episode is, It Begins, China Pulls West Investment Dollars and Redirects It East. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we know, the economy, well, from all indicators that we've been looking at, the economy is slipping and deteriorating very, very quickly. But of course, the government, the Fed, they're out there telling us that the economy is doing very well. Right now, what they're telling us is that unemployment is at 4.4%, and this is at a 16-year low, suggesting there's little, if any, slack in the U.S. economy. Now, this is according to the Fed's Beige Book. And what they're saying is that we're seeing shortages where they can't find people to work. Now, the National Association of Home Builders, they're out there also saying, listen, we can't find qualified construction workers to work. And they're saying that it's becoming very, very difficult. Now, they're all out there telling us how great everything is. And then we have the new Federal Reserve survey, which kind of says something a little different. What they're saying is, for the first time, U.S. workers and job seekers are so disenchanted with the labor situation and harbor so little hope for higher paychecks that even as they increasingly search for new jobs, they are not only expecting fewer jobs and fewer offers, but anticipate a lower paycheck. Now, let's think about this for a second, because if they can't find workers, that means they're going to pay a lot more money to get those people in, because there's few people to work. Now, I saw this back in the 90s during the whole entire Windows administration and things like that, where they couldn't find qualified people because it was new. And what they did was they paid people who knew SQL, people who knew how to administer Windows on a network. They paid them quite a bit of money because they were few and there weren't that many workers out there. So what they're telling us right now is that, they can't find these qualified people. But people are saying that they expect fewer job offers and lower pay. Now, something doesn't make sense here. Now, according to the Fed survey, respondents said in July that the lowest annual salary they would accept in a new job would be around $57,960, down from $59,660, only 4 months earlier. So what we're looking at right now is something that really doesn't make any sense. Now, we need to remember that a lot of these numbers were manipulated. A lot of these numbers are fake, phony, and false. And a lot of these jobs, which brought down the unemployment numbers, they are part-time waiter, bartender, and jobs like that. And we can see right now the full-time, high-paying jobs, they're really non-existent, because remember how they work all this. They count a part-time job as a full-time job. So if you have two part-time jobs, you have two full-time jobs. And this is how they were able to bring the unemployment number down. Now, they used other manipulated tactics to massage the numbers to make it look like everything is fine. Now, what we're seeing is that the quality of available jobs, they're just not out there. And respondents saw a 22% likelihood of receiving at least one job offer in the next 4 months, down from an average response of 25% in 8 months ago. So already they're expecting to see less job offers. Now, what's very interesting, at one point they're saying that they can't find qualified workers. On another point, they're saying that we're at the lowest unemployment rate and salaries are falling, and people expect they're not going to get any offers. Something doesn't make sense. And of course, we know what that is. The whole thing's a complete lie. Now, the New York Times is reporting that there is a problem in Silicon Valley. They're saying that we're in a full-fledged housing crisis, and local officials out there are worrying. They saying that the affordability, well, it's not there. It's very expensive. People are leaving. And we're already getting an indicator from the corporate media that there are problems. Now, we saw this before during the 2008 crisis when it began. Remember those televised shots where people were leaving their homes? They couldn't afford them anymore. Interest rates were moving up. They had adjustable rate mortgages, and they left, their furniture, their belongings, and they just left the home because they just couldn't afford it anymore. Well, it looks like we might be going down this same exact path, because what is happening right now is people are saying that it is just too expensive to live in this area. They can't afford the homes. They can't bring people into the homes. And right now, California is in crisis mode. And if these interest rates move up just a little bit, it will be a complete and utter disaster. Now, the Chicago National Activity Index, well, it surprised economists with a negative reading. Now, what is the Chicago Fed National Activity Index? It is a monthly index designed to gauge the overall economic activity and related inflationary pressure. Now, economists predicted a strong July reading for the Chicago Fed National Activity Index, but what they found was a negative reading of negative 0.01. And they expected a positive 0.22. So we can see already they were sideswiped. They had no idea that this was going to happen, but we kind of did, because we've been looking at all these different indicators, and we realize that the economy has been built up on a gigantic illusion. And what's happening is, one sector at a time, well, it's starting to fall apart. And a lot of these economists are going to come out there and say, this was completely unexpected. That's the word they like to use. Oh, it was an unexpected decline. Now, we see Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. He went out and he decided to visit Fort Knox. Now, this is very strange, because the last congressional visit was in 1974. And of course, there's been speculation over the existence of gold in Fort Knox. Many people say it is not there. And he decided to go visit it. Now, what's very interesting about all of this, he told us that the gold is safe. Everything is okay. Now, there was no camera crew. There was no proof. It was him just going in there, reassuring the American people that everything is fine. Now, to me, this is suspect. Because why can't they show the American people the gold? Why wasn't there any type of proof that can be shown to the American people? Having someone just go down there, or who knows if he actually did go down there, to tell us that there's gold, something just isn't right. And he made a joke about this. He said, "I assume the gold is still there," he told an audience in Louisville, Kentucky, some 40 miles north of the biggest U.S. bullion depository. It would really be quite a movie if we walked in and there was no gold. Which most of us, because there hasn't really been an audit of the gold in Fort Knox, that do we really know it is actually there? And I think the American people have the right to see it. I think the American people have the right to know if the gold is still there. And I think it's very interesting that there was no camera crew, because usually these type of people like to show off. They like to have camera crews. They like to show you what they're doing when it fits their agenda. Well, this is suspect once again. We see that Norway's government, well, their sovereign wealth fund, they're getting ready to buy $100 billion more in stocks. And they're saying this is to safeguard the country's riches. So they're investing in stocks to safeguard the country's risks. And we know there are many countries around the world, central banks, that have been buying a huge amount of stocks to pump the stock markets up, to make everyone believe that things are okay. We know that the Swiss National Bank, they hold a lot of Apple stock. So was the purchase of all these stocks really to help their investment and to safeguard the country, or was it to pump the global market up? And I'm going to say it was to pump the global market up. Now, we talked about the Belt and Road system, and we know that China, well, they have this new law where Chinese investment companies, corporations, they need to redirect their funds and take their investments and invest it in the Belt and Road system. And we talked about this, which means a lot of buildings, a lot of the entertainment industry, the hospitality industry, well, they're going to suffer for this. Even if, let's say right now we're at the height of the market, in the real estate market, and China says, you know something, let's start selling buildings and pulling our funds out of the country. Let's stop all these corporations from investing in businesses in the West. What happens to the economy? Because a lot of the economy was based on the Chinese, was based on the free money, was based on certain entities. It wasn't based on the American people. The American people are tapped out. And we can see that Dalian Wanda, this is a Chinese conglomerate, they are abandoning plans to buy a £470 million, which is $606 million plot of land in London, because Beijing is telling companies to halt overseas acquisitions. Redirect your funds to the Belt and Road. And we can see it has begun, which means that the economy here in the United States is going to deteriorate, which tells you why the U.S. is actually sanctioning China, certain companies. It's not for the reasons that we think, because they're dealing with North Korea and all that. It's because they're going to start pulling out. It's because they're going to invest in their Belt and Road system. And we can see right now that this is going to be a major problem here in the United States. It's going to be a major problem throughout Europe. And we can see that time is ticking down at this point. And as we move forward and more investments leave this area, and let's say they start selling off some businesses, there's going to be major problems. Now remember, a lot of the real estate that's being purchased, a lot of these homes are from foreign investors. Now, if they clamp down on these, this whole thing is a complete disaster. So this tells us that we're moving in the direction where the economy is not going to be able to sustain itself. We're going to see major problems. And this is just, and we called it a red swan. This is what David Stockman called it. This is just a red swan coming out of left field. And again, the central banks, what can they do about this? Can they create more currency? Of course. Can they give more to the investment hedge fund companies? Of course. But can they keep up with this? No, it's going to be very difficult, which means they need to do one or two things. They need to bring the economy down. They need to say we need to create a lot more stimulus. They need to blame it on another individual or group. And they need to explain away why all of this is happening. Because as we can see right now, the economy is deteriorating very, very quickly. We see we have a housing crisis in Silicon Valley. This is going to spread. We know they've been pumping up 20 cities, keeping the prices up. But the outlying areas, guess what? Prices are coming down. I mean, I'm seeing more and more homes on the market, and they just cannot move them. They're continually lowering the prices. The people are saying, what's going on here? I had to lower it another $10,000. I had to lower it another $20,000. I can't move my house. And we're seeing that this whole entire illusion, well, it's starting to fall apart. And it will accelerate as we go throughout this year. And this is why you need to be ready and prepared, because when it hits, it's going to be very difficult for many people. People are not going to understand what's happening because we've been lied to for so long. They really believe the economy is doing well. They believe, who cares if all these retail stores close? Everyone's shopping online. That's what I hear. I mean, from people out there who really don't look into anything, they really do believe that everyone's just shopping online. That's why all the brick and mortar stores are closing. And we can see that they also believe that housing is doing fantastically. And of course, you don't know how housing is doing until you go to sell your home. Yes, there are still pockets out there in the country, just like back in 2008, where people were able to sell their homes. And actually, there was one person that sold their home in 2008. A couple months later, their next door neighbor couldn't move the house. The house kept on dropping in price, dropping in price, dropping in price. That's what we're going to see once again. So you need to get ready. You need to get prepared, because this economy, it's coming down. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.